Estate Excellence Podcast. Today is episode 150. I have a special guest, someone I admire and I know is very well respected with everyone in the real estate community, especially here in Northeast Florida and growing throughout Florida. And we'll hear a little bit about that. And her mission daily goes beyond just marketing. She provides great value to many of the real estate agents each day. She not only coordinates training classes and conducts them, as well as sharing her knowledge and experience. I want to welcome someone who I respect greatly and I think has a great influence here in Northeast Florida, Brit O'Donoghue with Landmark title to the show.
Hi.
Thank you, Brit. So it was episode 149. I had you and Kayla on.
Yeah.
So we're 101 episodes away. It's probably been about a year and a half now, I think, something like that.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep this hat on. It feels weird.
Feels like summer.
But you've had some little bit. I know you had a son graduate high school, right?
I did.
This past couple weeks, and then you also had. So I don't know if it was recent, but your other son was just promoted in the Marine Corps.
He was promoted to corporal. He lives in Okinawa. When you see, he's my first, and so him leaving the nest, I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, hope I did this right. And he has a beautiful life in Japan. He loves it. He's just recently picked up beach volleyball, so that's his new hobby. And he's a corporal in the Marines, so oorah. I'm very proud of him. And then my second, he just graduated from Bishop Kenny. He's going to USF in the fall, and he's my entrepreneur. No military for him.
That's great. Now, how long has your son been in the Marine Corps now?
So he went 2020. As soon as he graduated.
So he's like 21 now, 22,
he's 21.
21?
God bless.
Excellent. Now, and one thing I if people don't already know it, and obviously people that follow you and know that you're a single mom and you have a couple other kids still in the nest, so to speak, there, because you do bond a lot with the I call the single moms group. You do bond a lot with a lot of the agents that way and building your relationship part of it. But one of the things I had on here, you book a pretty good schedule.
I do.
How do you juggle that with, because although your kids are not infants, they're in activities, they're doing this, they're doing that, and you're dealing with that as well as, all the amazing things you're doing at Landmark.
Work-life balance. When you have to provide for your family, you just kind of do what you have to do. Over the past couple of years, I've started to learn how to balance things a little bit more. I would say with my job, I have an awesome boss who's also a single parent, so he totally understands and respects that world. Kids come first. So we just kind of evolve our schedule around that. They're heavily involved in my work as well, which I love. My senior, that just graduated, he's going to get his real estate license. So he loves this space. He goes and sits at some of the trainings. So it's just kind of merging all of them together. What you see is what you get. This is what I do 24/7, I guess.
Right. But I mean, have you noticed, obviously, if you want to give him, what's his name, the one you're talking about, Hayden. Yeah. Hayden's watching you do it. You got some other younger ones in the nest, but seeing their mom, as I put it, you are one of the most respected, but definitely one of the most known, but what the value you provide, and obviously they must sense, especially when you're doing your trainings or putting them on, that mom's running the show here.
They make fun of me, actually. There's nobody more humbling than twin 14-year-old preteens who also have a social media presence. They definitely keep you humble. I want my kids to feel comfortable in their own skin, and I hope that what they see their mom does is an inspiration that they can do whatever they want.
Right.
And they're all different facets of my personality, so each one's different. My daughter's recently done some public speaking, and that's just anything to kind of push them out there and show them what they can do. I hope that I'm a little bit of an influence in that area over their life.
Well, one of the things I wanted to tap into a little bit was, how things have evolved. You've been at Landmark a little over 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
And
Can't believe it.
yeah. And, what was the initial vision? I'm looking at your LinkedIn, and I see the word business development. Well, I know a lot of business development people, but no one's maybe not had the platform that David's obviously provided, which I think you've created. I mean, David's been, I put on here, what's it like to work for David Heekin?
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, obviously he's a visionary, and he's like, hey, yeah, that's like a good idea. Let's try it and see if it works type of attitude, which is refreshing.
Right.
Yeah. And the ideas you're bringing, but from what you guys first, before you even got hired, what he was telling, like kind of what he wanted you to do, to what you're actually doing today, how that evolved over the last 36 months.
So that's crazy. All of it evolved around COVID. Everybody's life, I think, just went nutso during COVID. Before I came on to Landmark, and I touched about this last time, I worked for a hedge fund, and it was a private hedge fund technology group, and we funded front-end financing for builders. And I worked in the Atlanta market, but lived here, so you get very innovative online. Now, Landmark got me during the COVID experience, and when I first started, they basically had outsourced marketing and wanted to bring it in, and they needed a marketing department. At that time, it was Nikki and David that kind of had grew the company together, and it was blowing up, and then the real estate market blew up, and then it was just, here we go. Taking that brand to the next level, what was a day in the life of the closing room? So we started with resurfacing the website and kind of what is title and showing that story. And then all of that kind of involved in, it evolved from then getting in speaking with our real estate professionals on when the world changed, we had to adapt and change with it. I mean, we were doing crazy closings outside and COVID closings and people packing up everything and leaving states and in our yard or in our parking lot with like every animal they owned. We've had all kinds of animals in closings, making all these accommodations, and then just kind of staying up, in front of this. And then it just kind of evolved into that customer service side because we were growing, but we still wanted to have relationships with everybody. So we were able to take and create small teams, and we scaled it all the way down to where all of our agents had somebody that they could work with on the marketing side. I saw a company out of Atlanta with my old job, and they grew. They're the largest privately owned mortgage company based out of Atlanta. Their spokesperson now, because of their marketing department, is Kirby Smart. And they blew up just utilizing their marketing platform to get builder business. And so watching how that kind of happened was giving me kind of the same mindset with Landmark on how we could take our marketing arm. We were great at processing, great at customer service, great at the closing table. We also wanted to make sure that our marketing department was at that same level and could provide value to all of our real estate agents. And now it's just...
Well, I mean, we'll talk about the training room in detail and what that's done, but obviously his vision of the corporate office, did he have that really before you got there, or just you as you got there and growth? Because it's been about a year now, right? You've been in that new building.
Yeah, so that was definitely a dream of his before. Honestly, David is such a high driving visionary. You just kind of have to just grab on and go with him. I work the same way in some aspects and don't, and so we can definitely go down a rabbit hole together. ADHD is not our friend, but it is. Yeah, that was a dream of his for a long time. And then when we got the building and kind of could see what they were making out of it, I was like, okay, here we go. This is how we're going to take it to the next level.
Because, I mean, in your return on investment, I'm sure you're David's looking at this. I think it's a great idea. I would be surprised that it didn't. But I mean, have you guys seen a true measure in the year now? You've got the training room. You're regularly using it, letting others use it. being the center of attention, so to speak, you're bringing people in and out of the building, having his coffee bar and those type of things that he talked to me about in his episode. Have you seen that market, percent, what's the term?
Like return on investment?
Your return on investment, your market penetration, based on the number. Obviously, I'm sure you guys are always measuring, how many homes are closing in the area. That obviously titles being done. What percentage are we getting?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously we have a business to run, and so that's important. But at the same aspect, education is huge too. So education is definitely one of the pillars at Landmark. David loves to educate people. He gives his cell phone out to everybody. If you work with him, you can call him 24/7, just like any other of the attorneys and staff members. We definitely are seeing where we get to bring everybody to us. It's so awesome having events there because I get to see folks that I don't always get to see, because it's great to do networking events and happy hours. Because of 75 hard, definitely, but I'm a little over happy hours right now. And I like to have that one-on-one interaction. So it's nice to see folks using our Realtor Lounge for Zoom calls with out-of-state buyers.
Right.
It's nice to see that we can offer all different aspects of training or allow brokerages to use our space to do educational stuff there. Same with our LO partners and vendor partners. We can do breakfast learns, lunch and learns. We can have big events like we've done with Real Producers. Our Breakfast of Champions that started 2 years ago, it's one of my favorite events that we do. And so I think that, yes, it definitely helps on the business side because we're casting a bigger net to bring people to us, and it allows for people that don't know anything about Landmark to get to see us on a whole nother level. We've got the foundation photos right there when you go in the training room, so people are like, oh, what's Landmark Foundation? We get to talk a little bit more about our community efforts. And then you get to see the staff. We're all one big jacked up family. We love each other. So you see us cutting up. It's such a great, I guess it's kind of like the Google of title, which I don't want to make it seem like we're this big grandiose company because we are small at heart. But we have a gym now, which I don't know if I want anybody to see me working out at the gym, but
I know that was one of his goals, to have the Peloton in there, and then get the wrap. That was what he wanted. He's like, work out and then go get your wrap and go back to your desk.
Honestly, I'll tell you, when he says he's going to do something, he means it. And there's we have a couple Pelotons coming in. There's a whole weight machine in there. And what is one of those boxing things, which is
punching
good.
bags.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So if you're having a rough day on the problem file, you can just go get it out.
Well, I when he told me about it, I immediately was like, oh my God, that is so brilliant. Not only for the people that are there, but when you're, especially as a marketing person, when you're having to go to all these places and set up and, coordinate with their staff and, you're never in your house, right? It's a lot easier to entertain at your house.
You're in your house. Yeah. And we've got the technology, our IT guy, shout out to Randy. He is the best. And so we've got speakers in the ceiling. We've got Zoom capability. We've done a lot of stuff together there. Mic setup, TV screens, and every time we do something there, we go back and we take notes, and our whole team talks about, okay, how could we have done this better? What else do we need to provide? What are some other options? And since we got this guy that knows technology in and out, we're able to do a lot of cool things.
When you first got in there, I imagine you had some immediate ideas, as far as, trainings and so forth and stuff to do, and getting feedback from what, and then what you felt the agents needed, because you're providing value to them. What are some of the things you've discovered in the last year that, either just by hearing the agents talk or people coming to you directly going, oh my God, I didn't even think of that to add to our training schedule?
Yeah.
Or event schedule.
We recently did, so the last 2 days, which I was sad I had to miss, because I was at our West Palm office, but we had a certified negotiations expert come in. He did an 8-hour, 2-day CE course that was just about, and I'm going to get downloaded on everything that happened, but, teaching agents that sales side of it, because if you're in real estate, I always say you're in sales. Like, it is what it is. I'm not a salesperson. Yes, you are. You're selling homes. And so just
everyone just sells differently.
Right. And I mean, I don't like to be a salesperson. I'm not your vacuum, go door to door person. I like to have relationships. And then from there, if you want to do business together, cool. But anyways, so we've had that. A lot of those classes, we've had a commercial lending come up a lot. People are very interested in the commercial side. So that's an area that we were like, oh, okay, this is something that we need to touch on. We have a 1031 exchange class coming up. We've done that a couple times. People really like that. There's
so the CE credit was kind of something you didn't initially visualize.
That much of like a 2-day kind of type. Okay, so this is like where people are going to come in, almost like a seminar type thing, like a workshop. Yeah. We were just doing 2-hour stuff, and didn't really like, that's something I didn't know if somebody would sit through that. And I have to stand up and walk around a lot, so and then some of these like panel style stuff that we've done, and then motivational speakers, so we can kind of tailor to all the things. We don't want it to be boring all the time. We want to have hot topics. We want to kind of change with what's going on with the market, stay fluid. Social media obviously is my jam, so anything and everything that we can do to help our agents in the world of social media, that's what I try to bring to the table.
We're going to flip into that in a minute, just to finish up as far, because I for the audience, the reason why I like to talk about the training room, because I think that whole concept that you have there, it gives the agents another venue.
Right.
I think it's neutral now. Some agents, it's kind of the feeling like, are you seeing agents that you didn't see before come in there? I know you guys hopefully maybe are somewhat trying to get a feel on that, if you're bringing in people that maybe weren't working with you before, type of thing, or at least coming over and taking advantage of the value add. What are some things that you haven't done yet that maybe you have some sort of vision or working on that you want to even do in the future, utilizing that space?
I don't want to tell you all my secrets. So, we have some stuff that's evolving right now. And the cool thing is that we can, not only do we have the space, but we have like space inside of the space. What I mean by that is all of those desks there, we can kind of play around with the room however we want. So we might be doing some more interactive stuff, because we can clear everything out of that room. I mean, we've had, and I think we're going to plan another one, like a self-defense class there. I mean, we can hold some things that are out of the box. Social media-wise, we're kind of coming up with some ideas, maybe a more interactive Reels class. When you're doing social media with so many different demographics, everybody's skill set's a little bit different. Yes. So you don't want to be so granular that some people are getting lost. So we try to do templated stuff, just like we did with TikTok. So we've got some ideas there. So I don't know, sky's the limit right now.
Yeah, it really is. In turning over to the social media part, and I know that you like doing. I know you've been putting out a lot of value, a lot of education in that field, but like you just said it, there's different people at different levels, and like how do you really tell them this is for the beginner who probably isn't doing a reel right now versus obviously someone who's already doing some reels that might want to pick up some tips and tricks, right? You're like, how do I gauge that class? Because you obviously want at least a reasonable number of people to show up, right?
Right. So I recently, the best is to get outside of your comfort zone. And yes, I do know a lot of folks in Northeast Florida. I've been working with them for a while. And so recently I did a class Tuesday of this week in West Palm. Totally different vibe. So didn't really know what to take in. We sold out at 55 people. And that was a good gauge for me because everybody's skill set down there was different. You're dealing with high dollar real estate, so they invest a lot of money into their marketing, and a lot of times probably dump that off on somebody that they use. So I was trying to see like, okay, well, I have no idea. Here we go. I start off the class with just some stats because I think people need to see what this looks like and what areas penetrate more online than other areas. And some of that I'll dial back a little bit, and then I will skim over it depending on. So I'll ask a couple questions, and I'll be like, oh, okay, everybody's good here. You never know, because I try to keep the class interactive. People will raise their hands if they have questions. Feel comfortable. There's no stupid questions, because somebody that is in that 45 to 55 age bracket might not be well versed online or understand even what some of the terminology you use, but they've been selling the heck out of some real estate.
Right.
So I'm trying to teach the two together. They're old school sales. They went door knocking. They did this. They did that. And I'm like, okay, well, you can take all of that and put it into social media as well, and you can do it easy. Don't be so scared of it. So we'll just start there, and then we'll go right into the nitty gritty. I did Chat GPT heavily this time. That is a wild animal in itself. It's very, it's a time saver, but it's not taking your job away from you. And so a lot of questions on that. And how to utilize
how do you push it? You ask someone asks this, they just, because obviously it's out there, artificial intelligence, as they told us that everyone's going to start selling their houses online. Now they're not really talking about that. Now it's AI is going to take over, right? And how do you address that question?
So one thing that we use Chat GPT live together, so I can kind of show them how it works. And I had an agent that had a listing on Singer Island. It's a very prominent area in West Palm. And I asked him if I could use it. And so we typed in a listing description for it, and it was pulling stuff. And then he was like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't have that, and it doesn't have that. And I'm like, exactly. So this is to help with your writer's block or help you come up with content, because it can write video scripts. It can do all these things, but it's a tool. It doesn't take away your job. I had listened to a podcast, and they were talking about the wild world of Chat GPT and AI and how it was going to take over. And they was talking about CNET, which is a popular website to get technology information. You may, follow it online. It's kind of like BuzzFeed for technology. Anyways, they had AI write 70 different different topics on different ways to use money and finance. Anyways, long story short, it was all wrong. They were talking about different things when it comes to HELOCs. That's not your area. So when I talk to agents about utilizing Chat GPT, please do not go on to Chat GPT and become a mortgage professional or a doctor. Instead, get with your vendor partners that are skilled and knowledgeable in their space. They do this day in and day out, and pop a TV or a camera right in front of them and do your video reels with them, and that will give you social media content, SEO content, closed caption it, boom, you're done. So it's a powerful tool, but it's not Bible. It's pulling data from 2020 and beyond, and if we know anything, looking at the real estate market, it has changed dramatically from 2020 to now. So that's kind of how I kind of scare them a little bit. Like, please proofread this.
Well, it takes a lot of the writer's cramp, whatever you want. If you want to create a really good template or your buyer seller's guide and make it sound professional, maybe you weren't an English major like me, you can go in there and write a paragraph and then tell it to rewrite it and you want to prompt it. And all this stuff there's so much YouTube on this right now, because obviously a lot of the YouTubers took advantage of it, is from the educational piece to things. And there's something every day, to go in and just you tell it what you want to do and it will do it. But yeah, you have to read it.
Yeah, you can't just like copy and paste.
Yeah, I think I mentioned one time a couple months ago when I was dabbling with it I wanted to write a script for a short reel about VA loans, and it wasn't up to date with what the current VA stuff was, and it was not wasn't worded correctly, and I actually went when I posted and I'm starting to read, and go no, and I had to delete the post because it was incorrect. Now I will say I took it with the new FHA rules, and I prompted it, said FHA is changing their MI rate and blah blah blah, and it actually wrote a paragraph and did a calculation example for me that I didn't even ask it to do. You know, so because I prompted it, I told it what I wanted, and then it makes it look good. You know, makes you look good. Yeah. But yeah, taking over real estate. You know, I know. I think for the last decade, I thought Hauser because Zillow was going to buy. It was just going to go through Zillow and buy a house online. No. That's not going to happen. I don't foresee it in the near future. Too many, as well as you guys know, in title. Every title's different. Every loan's different. Every customer is different, and every house is different.
Correct.
You know, different address. I jumped around here. Do you ever sit back and, you know, because I looked at your LinkedIn and it said 3 years at Landmark, and I said, wow. And I look at, you know, the involvement that Landmark do. I know some of the other titles are companies. I think Landmark's raised the bar for a lot of the other title companies, especially in my opinion. This is my opinion. There's obviously no factual. Especially some of the small lawyer offices that want to do title as well, because I have noticed like the sense of urgency and responding. Because when I get a contract and it says, you know, some small lawyer's office, I'm like, oh God, I'm not going to get the email back in 10 minutes like William Lee would send me back, right? Yeah, but I've noticed all of a sudden they are being more responsive. Oddly enough, I don't know. I just assuming that, you know, Landmark's raising a title, but because you're out there, you're out there. Do you realize how? Do you realize how much you're respected by a lot of business people? They tell me all the time they think you're brilliant.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. But you're as David has the way he runs his company. You're obviously the point person, face person, really for a lot of it, and you're creating waves, so to speak, in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I'm humbled by you even saying any of that, because what David and the team has built, it makes my job easy in a lot of aspects, because what you see is what you get. Our core values are like ingrained and not like beat over your head. It's just like David says it all the time. We meet once a quarter as a collective group, all of the offices across Northeast Florida, even some of our processors that work remotely. We all get together and we share wins. We talk about some areas that we need some better coverage. We talk about what's going on in the market. I mean, when things were looking a little bit bleak for a while, and maybe people were downsizing, David had those conversations with his team. He's really good at being a servant leader, you know? And so when you are the head of a company and you get everybody believing in that, because I get asked that a lot about what is it like working with Heekin, or, you know, I'm like, I drank the Kool-Aid. I did. Like, I'm all in. I understand what Landmark's mission is. Do we fall short? We're human. We ask for grace. But I'm always listening to what our real estate professionals want. And we go back through the channels and say, processing, I get to talk to our director of operations. This is some areas that I'm hearing. We talk it through. When it comes to the leadership side, closing room. I mean, we cook cookies every day so that when you come in to close on your house, whether you're buying a new home or you're selling it and it's a win-win either way, you smell cookies. Everybody's smiling. We try to make sure that if you want, you know, certain particular things in a room with you, like everything is thought through. It's kind of like, you know, when you go to like a really nice hotel, I don't want to put us as a really nice hotel, but you just know that the standard is that I'm going to be at Relax, and it's going to be the same no matter if I'm in our Amelia Island office, I'm in our Durban office, I'm in Financial Way, which is obviously our operations hub, all the way down to West Palm, where Kelly is our concierge closer down there. Everything is the same, and it's supposed to be at a level of excellence. And so that is internally with our staff, and then externally on how we do business.
What one of the things I admired, and again, looking from the outside, the the one thing I've noticed, well, in the real estate industry in general, we talk about social. There's people, like you said, down in West Palm. They've been basically basing off referrals. They've been in the business, whatever. They're killing it as far as anybody else is concerned. Do they really even need to do social media? That kind of thing. But when you came, titles, the back office, the lawyers are doing what they're doing is, maybe the technology has changed in what they're using, but what they're actually doing is still the same they've been doing for years. Now but from the marketing standpoint in our industry, did you feel when you got there and over the last 3 years, you really have like this blank portrait to do whatever, canvas to do whatever you want on, because the important thing, like I said, like building relationships, bringing in, obviously getting, face to face and shaking hands and that kind of thing. There's no holds barred.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, as a creative through and through, it's so nice to have that blank canvas, because we just start throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, and then we're like, we don't really want to do that anymore, or let's do this, but let's make it better the next time that we do it. I think marketing is key. I went to school for it. It's a science. You learn consumer behavior patterns. You start understanding. I mean, the first 6 months to a year for me, because I had never worked with a real estate agent before. I only worked with builders and developers, which are two totally different things than a real estate agent. And so I had to study what is a real estate agent. And so I would sit in on a lot of calls or in closing rooms or to try to get like, okay, this is what we're doing here. And then I realized when I would sit down title is not sexy, and it's super detailed and it's super important. And you are the last person at the end of the day to make sure that whatever this transaction looked like, everybody's happy. So you got to go in there with a smile on your face, relax, have good bedside manner. And on our marketing side, we want to make sure that that carries over into all the other aspects of real estate, including making sure our real estate partners have all the tools that they need. So
from the marketing standpoint, you go to school, you're meeting real estate agents, which I can imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you're working with builders and developers, they're companies. You're dealing with some levels of management, and
all
people.
Numbers.
They're looking. Hey, how do we want whatever their project they're doing and how marketing is involved. When you're working with real estate agents, you're working with thousands of small business owners.
Oh yeah.
They're making a lot of the decisions themselves. They're not having to go back to a board or whatever, and obviously, some people do try to recreate the wheels. The new things are evolved, type of thing. But I guess where I wanted to go with the question, I don't want to make that statement, but where I wanted to go with the question is, with the marketing is marketing, but with the attention span, people, social media consistently changing, upgrading, better. Obviously, they're trying to keep people on their platforms. I mean, how are you staying in front of that? What are you doing? Because you love the social media and teaching it and helping others with it. What are you doing to try to stay in front? Because it's like the tide going out. You can't stop it. It's changing all that quickly. Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, when I look at the real estate world, you've got big box brokerages mixed with personal branding, and everybody's their own entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurs. And so for me to keep a step above is, number one, I follow a lot of people and try to constantly stay in the know of what's changing. I've got myself and other people on my team, Jess, who is our marketing director. Her and I are always looking, okay, Canva's having a webinar, we need to sign up. Okay, one of our underwriters is having a webinar on technology in the title space and what they're marketing to realtors. We need to go on that. So we try to stay in the know with information that's coming out, because there is so much information coming out. I've started doing 75 hard. And so one of the things that I've told myself in that is one self-help book, one educational book in my sphere for work, one self-help because we all need a lot of self-help. And then also I gave up. When you are going to be in this world, especially of social media, you just have to give up the thought process on trying to make it perfect. I just showcase this is what you see is what you get. So that allows me to put a lot of content out there. I put educational content out there. I put personality content out there. I put what I'm doing in life content out there because I want to continue to have that human relationship interaction, but also, hey, I'm a business professional and this is what I'm really good at. If you'd like to utilize me in this area. And then also, I think that we all could use some positivity online. So I try to dabble between the three. And when I do one-on-one, consulting or conversations with real estate professionals, my first thing is, why do you do what you do? And if it's just to make money, then okay, well, that's what your marketing is going to look like. And if it is to help people, or because it's a passion of mine, or I'm third or fourth generation in, whatever it is, I always say that needs to be part of your marketing story, because that's the part if you are very passionate about your job, and that why resonates here, it's going to come out through all of the channels. And I think because I'm so passionate about my job and social media as a whole and people, I think it's really people. It helps me stay in front of people because I put it out there. Consistency is key when it comes to having an online presence. It's not like, oh, I did my one reel for the month, I'm good. No, you need to be constantly putting out there what you have going on, why you're doing it, and how you can help people, because that's what they're looking for.
I'm going to throw this question out here. It's not on my script at all. This is right out there. It's going to be, but you may not be able to just spill it all out at once, because it's going to probably take some thought. But maybe you've thought about this, or maybe it's right on the tip of your tongue. In the perfect world, what is that? I want to say the average, because we know there are some people that are, although I don't think I can't think of anyone right now. And as much as I study the social media, because I'm putting out the reels and everything from the show, and I'm seeing what everyone else is doing, I don't see anyone that I think is overdoing it. I do know who's consistent, because I see their stuff. I could, if you ask me, like, hey, what's 3 agents that you consistently see? I could probably, rattle off 6, but it doesn't go far beyond that.
Yeah.
What is in your world that's not too much to where it's a burden to their, they're doing more of that than actually meeting people and showing houses, but yet there's others that obviously haven't even got out the gate yet. What is that kind of like perfect in your world, what everyone should be doing as like a kind of a median?
Okay.
In social media.
Yeah, I would say there's no perfect answer, honestly, because everybody is a little bit different and their boundaries are different, and that is okay. Not everybody wants to put everything out about their life on social media.
There are some people there's too much information.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, I'm totally, I think when you stop having fun with it, I think that's where, so you can't be scared with it, and when you stop having fun with it, somewhere in between those two things, that's the perfect parameter, because everybody's a little bit different. I think that it's more so what your content looks like that would be, instead of the amount of time. They say 3, they say 6 times. Your stories are where you humanize yourself, that behind the scenes of you. I know of an agent that goes and has to pick weeds sometimes, and she'll do it around other properties near a listing that she's trying to sell. I'll be posting that stuff on social media because it's hilarious. Like, that is the day in the life of a real estate agent. So peppering in, I would not have constant just sold, signs, or constant, of just those marketing pieces. You need to have like those 3 in there, a little bit of that humanizing, your solution-based stuff, whether it's with your vendor partners again, or, talking about know your market, and then talk about ways to help, especially your buyers, when it comes to specific loan packages or programs that are out there that can help combat with whatever the problem is in the market right now. So make sure that you're a solution-based person. and then what you do, why you're an expert at what you do. I think you have to pepper in all three. But as far as like that perfect, everybody's a little bit different. So what it looks like for them is different.
All right, I'm gonna press my opinion on you and rephrase it into a question.
Okay.
Because I know you know I had Matt Maniak on last week, and we were talking, and we're working on some things, and I know you talked to him about, you know, getting a real hands-on social media, like how to actually do a reel from start to finish type of thing, or create a script and do that, just to really get some people.
That's my next class.
Get out of the gate. So we've been talking about that. But one thing I think is, in your opinion on this, I don't feel enough agents are using YouTube enough from this standpoint, because you talked about, you used a word there a minute ago that rang with me and what I'm trying to say. You want to build this library, so in my opinion, that someone Googles you, there's a video that tells them about you. Maybe it's this podcast, right? To get to know you. That's why I always tell the agents, this is going to be out there. Someone Googles you, this podcast is going to come up about you. Those little, you see some of the top agents, some from South Florida, that are consistently using YouTube with their reels, because it's like a library. Where the Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok gets buried. Someone doesn't go on there and say, how do you buy an investment property? I mean, that's a YouTube question.
Right.
And what I find, in my opinion, there is very small percentage of agents that they've got some YouTube videos. Most of them are years old, but they're not creating just those simple things that we could sit down right here at the table and whip 10 things off, and have 10 short little 2-minute videos on how, what's the process after you make an offer, whatever, all the different things that break down the process that is knowledge. Or, as we know, some of our Josh is using. There's some other agents that are going around the neighborhoods. I'm starting to see some of that. They're doing that regularly. So when those neighborhoods are searched, boom, their videos popping up.
Yeah, so I would say, just like anything else, find your niche when it comes to this. You don't have to, in the